So it's kind of my pleasure to say, you know, as hard as people tried to get rid of MLK Day, we're still here celebrating. Yes, we are. And it's honoring the man who led the movement that helped the passage of the landmark Civil Rights Act. But in a recent interview with the New York Times, you know who claims that there's a downside to the Civil Rights Act. He says, and I quote, "White people were very badly treated." Where they did extremely well. And they were not invited to go into a university or a college. And under his administration, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission says there could be reparations for this discrimination.
He got jokes.
Take a look at this clip.
Are you a white male who's experienced discrimination at work based on your race or sex? You may have a claim to recover money under federal civil rights laws. The EEOC is the federal agency charged with enforcing federal anti-discrimination law against businesses and other private sector employers. The EEOC is committed to identifying, attacking, and eliminating all forms of race and sex discrimination, including against white male applicants and employees.
So this is my question. When did it all go downhill for white guys? I mean, okay, so like, I know that in 1955, when I was born, Black folks didn't have the full vote in the United States.
Yeah.
Black folks couldn't really go to colleges without a big old hassle. So what was the problem then? I remember when women tried to get into these colleges. I remember when women had to fight to have the jobs that broke the glass ceilings. These were women, okay, just women. And now you want me to cry for the white guys who have always had, it seemed, many more advantages. They could go and get a bank loan.
Yeah.
My mom couldn't do that.
Yeah.
They could own a credit card.
They could own a credit card by themselves.
Yeah.
Well, you
My
know,
mom, go
they
ahead.
could file for bankruptcy, right?
Yeah, they could, yeah.
Several times.
Yeah.
Listen,
When white people experience discrimination in United States of America? Well, let's get to discuss this in today's video. We all know that white people in United States of America can experience prejudice, and that's common. But these people don't get to experience systemic discrimination. And these two things keep getting intentionally blurred so that there can be some sort of confusion, which now becomes the whole point of control and the whole gameplay.
you know, equality feels much like oppression when you have always had the privilege of being ahead, even if you were mediocre. And I think that's what we're talking about here. White men, as of 2023, were 76% of the workforce, and in all sort of top positions where people of color and women were not. And so what we're learning, I think, from this interview is that this administration kept on talking about a meritocracy and that things should be merit-based, and they felt that it never was. Now we really know that this attack against diversity, equity, and inclusion is based on white male grievance, and the fact that Donald Trump seems to really believe in the concept of reverse discrimination. And the NAACP made it very clear after hearing his comments that in fact there is absolutely no evidence, no fact-based evidence that white men have suffered because of the Civil Rights Act.
I think he might be confusing policies like affirmative action with the civil rights movement. Because when you look at the civil rights movement, you're talking about ending segregation, you're talking about voting rights, you're talking about owning things. Like, anyone that is personally offended by the civil rights movement might be a racist, because that was a huge pivotal point in the history of this country.
But Sarah, it was also access to education.
All the I could spend the whole show telling you all the things you get, but I'm saying there can be debates on other things, but the civil rights movement itself was. Again, if you have a problem with the civil rights movement, you're the problem. Like, that is bad. Yeah.
Well, and for me, I think that this is very likely trying to appeal to what oftentimes may feel like a big majority of the country, but is actually a very vocal minority. There's groups like the Groypers, who are self-identified white nationalists. They're young men. They're disillusioned. They helped propel Donald Trump to victory. A lot of Republican politicians feel right now like they have to cater to them. Like they're not going to be able to win in the future if they don't cater to the needs of these men. But what they're missing,
young white men?
Is mostly young white men. Not entirely, but mostly. What they're missing is, that is a tiny minority of the country. This country is moving to being multiracial, just generally speaking, at a very vast pace. So, like, demographics is destiny. We're going away from that. But also, at the end of the day, there was this interesting, and not saying all this represents Groypers, there was this interesting study that I highlighted saying that 22% of young men say that Trump is fighting for them after he was elected. 27% say Trump hasn't delivered for them.
Are they billionaires?
So a lot of these, no, they're saying he hasn't delivered for them.
Okay.
So while he may think, this is how I'm going to cater to these, at the end of the day, what the broadest swath of Americans want is a chance. They want a fighting chance. They want economic security. And they want safety in their communities. You don't need to cater to the racist, or you shouldn't need to cater to the racist to get ahead.
Somebody who has sent out ICE agents to target and profile people because of the way they speak, the way they look, the color of their skin, and the jobs they hold is a racist.
Correct.
Somebody who talks about Mexicans the way that he talks, somebody that talks about Latin American countries the way he talks, somebody who went after the Central Park Five, now the Liberated Five, and never has even apologized and was called is a racist.
We all know that discrimination is not about failing. It's about power, institutions, outcomes, who gets to write the rules, who benefits from the rules by default, and also who gets the benefit of doubt from the same institutions like the banks, court, school, police, and also to employers and employees who actually gets the favors. And now in the United States of America, we all know that the institutions and also this whole architecture was built by white people for white people. And that's now the larger part of the majority which runs the whole system. And a white person can be insulted, can be excluded, can be mocked, and also can be treated unfairly by any individual, and that's real. That can hurt someone's feelings, but it does not compound. It does not follow them through housing, sentencing. It does not also affect their credit score, their generational wealth creation, medical care, and political representation when it comes to matters concerning politics. That moment which this person has been treated badly ends in a moment. It does not actually compound. But this is not the same case when it comes to people of color and Black Americans at large, because we have known that for ages we have seen Black Americans and other minorities actually. This kind of discrimination stacks up. One bad intention becomes a pattern, and that pattern becomes the data, and now this data is used now to predict the destiny of these Black Americans and other minorities in the United States of America. And when people say that white people are discriminated against too, well, what they are usually saying is that they have lost dominance. So the moment they start losing dominance of discriminating the blacks and other minorities, now they say that they're being discriminated too. But if you come to understand is that they are fearing that they are losing dominance, they're also actually losing rights. And when now they are losing these rights which have been protecting them for some time now they start to say that they are being discriminated. They say that now that's discrimination too, but it is just loss of power. They are losing dominance against these people. And now the fact that they are fearing that they are going to feel equal with the minorities and people of color and the Black Americans, now that kind of fear now becomes oppression. They say that they are being treated, the equality, the sense of that they are going to be equal with other races now becomes to feel like oppression, and now that's what they call discrimination to them. And that tells us why all this whole system, where it has been standing and how it has been viewing the whites against other races. Now, the affirmative debates, like the affirmative action debates, the DEI, panic, the anti-white narratives, that's kind of evidence which shows that discrimination is actually around. It has not left even since the days of slavery. Even if the days of slavery ended, that discrimination has not ended. And now, there are evidences that actually show that this system has been nudged. It has been slightly inclined. There is no balance, and that there are some people who are used to this kind of fiction, and to them, the fact that they are losing grip, they are losing this kind of attention which they have been getting, now they fear, and that fear now becomes oppression. They term that fear as oppression. And the uncomfortable reality is that if the United States of America were truly neutral, they were colorblind, and there were never this merit-based kind of a system, then this conversation would not even have to exist, because the fact that people are still correcting these imbalances, and it makes other people feel aggressive when they are called upon that they have been discriminatory to other races. Well, then this shows that there is real imbalance which is still being addressed up to down. And that's why we can confidently say that these people cannot actually face discrimination in their own land. So, white people in United States of America are not victims of discrimination as a system, because we all know that they can face prejudice from an individual, but there is not much system as compared to the Black Americans and other minority races in United States of America. They are actually the participants in that system, that is actually slowly being questioned. And the fact that even to date such conversations still exist then shows that there is imbalance between these races. And now the United States of America has never had a period where whiteness was a liability. There is not in the law, not in economics, not in culture, because we saw that if it's in the laws, these people were never redlined. They've never had a sundown town. There is no threat. They can just roam freely. There is no system which is actually working against them. When it comes to economics, these people have had access to credit much better than other people of color and foundation of Black Americans too. And now that actually now comes to also as another evidence that these people have never have actually faced this kind of discrimination on United States of America. And now for every major institution, from property ownership to immigration policy, labor protection, they were designed with some sort of explicit racial preference, which was actually backed in those kind of system. And now that that kind of advantage has not even evaporated when this kind of a segregation ended some years back. It has just hardened. It has made these people to now have new strategies, new structures which favor them. And you don't need to actually be such active racists for you to keep this whole thing running. This whole system runs by itself. And another instance is that white people are now discriminated against, serves as kind of a purpose. It recenters the conversation. It kind of recenters it away from repair and towards grievance. It turns this kind of structural inequality towards grievance. They just want to seem to be affected by the very system which they run. So that's why these kind of claims show up whenever accountability gets so close, when they are almost being held accountable for their own things which they've been doing to other races for quite some time. So now, from the discussions that we have had, we have known that prejudice is an attitude, but discrimination is an action which is backed up by power. and institutions. So you can survive someone's prejudice, but you cannot easily escape discrimination because it is reinforced by institutions, norms, history, and also a culture which people tend to have concerning a certain race. Well, let us know what you think about whether these white people can face discrimination in United States of America, or whether can they or they can't. Just comment down below, and you can also support our channel by subscribing